Yeah. I don't have that much in my pocket, so I have my passport. Yeah, it's kind of a little bit dirty and damaged. Yeah, not that many stamps. A lot of US trips and a few vacations. The Dominican Republic. Was there 2 weeks. Great place. The iPhone with a message from Annette. I love this phone, but now when I work with BlackBerry, I have a BlackBerry as well, so I should probably put it there. But it shows that I still have a nostalgic attachment to this one. And obviously my wallet. Mostly doesn't contain that much money, just a few pounds because I'm useless with cash. And this is actually a good case. Usually I have loads of receipts in here for no particular reason. And when the wallet gets too thick, I throw them away, so I don't know why I keep them in the first place. And shitloads of various cards that I rarely use. And this is the business cards, and this is my interesting system. So I collect business cards from people I meet all over the world. Music producers, game designers, I can't even remember. Yeah, very interesting people. The sad story is that they end up in this particular pocket. They stay here until they grow too big. And then the same thing as with the receipts happens. I take them and I put them in a box and I never see them again. Well, sometimes though, it happens that a project or a connection gets made and I know I have them somewhere. And the first place I look is in the wallet to see if I need to get hold of that person. So I think that's pretty much it in my pocket. My name is Anders Plyhm. I work as a creative director in London. Right now I'm the executive creative director for BlackBerry at Rozenfelds. I've been doing advertising for about 15 years. But my special interest, I guess, is anything that's new. So that's why I kind of ended up in the digital landscape and founded an agency called Farfar back in the days to explore this new thing. Yeah, I kind of ended up in advertising a little bit by accident because I knew pretty early on that I wanted to tell stories in some kind of way or form. But my problem has always been I'm interested in too many things. So at one part in life I thought I'm going to be a filmmaker, and then I thought I'm going to be a 3D artist. No, I'm going to be a musician, and so on and so forth. But I always geared around some kind of creative output. And the first time around when I started to freelance, I wanted to do more traditional work. And to put it this way, I wanted to be afraid again. Because digital has started to become, get these standards and a lot of experts and stuff. It wasn't the Wild West anymore. So it started getting boring. So I wanted to be afraid again. I wanted to see how hard can it be to write a TV script or make a 48-sheet poster ad and so on. So that's why I started to freelance, just to see, explore and learn. I guess you learn a lot when you're freelancing. You get to work with a lot of different people with a lot of different backgrounds, and that's exciting. You can always pick up something from the people you meet and the agency you work with. I think it's something I've discovered when actually been doing a bit of freelancing, that the culture is everything and the environment is more important than you think it is. If you meet writers, they have the special routines of having a special room, and so you have to make sure that you're in a creative environment. If you're not, you will start to get bored and lose interest. But the other is the more normal human trait of being curious and playful. I think a lot of creatives I worked with, and probably myself included, are quite childish, kind of refuse to grow up. And I think we should cherish that thing. If I say the why first then, the exciting bit with advertising is again that you work with usually a lot of different brands if you're lucky. So you will learn a lot and you will discover, you will read up on things, you will dive into things that you didn't think were interesting. So it's a very stimulating environment, and if you're lucky, you get to travel, you go on shoots, explore new parts of the world, meet a lot of people, and that part is very exciting. Yeah. The why not part is that you can't help, even myself, but feeling that I'm not doing a real job. For once, probably because I have quite a lot of fun working, so it doesn't feel like work. But the other hand is also, I don't do anything useful for society, really. No one has asked for advertising, no one wants advertising. So I hope that myself and others that work with advertising at least can entertain you. I think the most important thing in advertising, and it's the same thing in any media, I guess, is I use 3 questions when I work with creative teams and when they work on ideas. So I say, what is it? You should be able to explain what idea is very succinctly in a couple of sentences. But then the second question to answer your question is that why should anyone care? If you can't answer that question, it's probably not worth continuing. So we have to make people care about what we do in order to get some kind of reaction. And usually that means finding an insight that no one have really thought about, or an interesting contrast or tension between something. Every good story has a tension or a contrast in it. And that's also why I like brave advertising. Advertising that are bold enough to stand for something or push some kind of boundary. Actually, I would be very happy, and I have a hunch that maybe it will happen, maybe not this year, but in a future year, where we will sit around and have a discussion or an argument. That's not advertising. Yes, it is. That's not advertising. Yes, it is. So someone who would be able to create that kind of discussion that can leave the boundaries of the channels and this way of thinking of the target audience and all that. Just create something that is interesting, that we care about, that communicates a brand or a product or a service. We should tell stories. We're primed, genetically primed to tell stories. That won't go away. That's just how we humans work. How can we create intriguing and compelling stories? But what has changed, and thanks to digital, is the way we tell stories. Actually, I think we're beginning to start to feel, in many ways, I think digital has more in common to work at, let's say, a Disney theme park or being a game designer, because we are creating experiences. And inside an experience, there might be an overarching storyline, but you are free to act and leave your mark in that storyline, in that experience. So that, I believe, is the difference. Kind of empower you. You're not just a passive viewer, just listening to the story. You can actually, in many ways, jump into the story. And this is an art form that still are in its beginning, and the gaming industry scratches their head every day to try to figure out when should we allow the gamer to take control, and when should we as a storyteller take control and tell a story. The most fascinating thing about digital, it still is and it still should be, but then a lot of people in digital advertising have tried to standardize things, is because it's new and you have a lot of way of molding it after your will. In the early days, for example, I remember that there were not that many banner formats, for example, so you can design your own one and you can talk straight to the site owners and say, and I still believe we can do this, but people have become a little bit lazy, I think, and media buyers in between. It becomes an industry. So there's still room for doing the new things and exploring the new things, and a lot of the best campaigns are doing this. They're not using just filling buckets. They're inventing the new format, the new thing that maybe later on becomes a standard format or standard way of doing things. So that's one thing that I don't particularly like, is something that, when you call best practices, like it's well known that this kind of things works. I can see the utility of it, but it's kind of boring. The more interesting thing is what is the new things that will create the best practices afterwards. This makes me very excited because I think we are in the start of another digital revolution. So internet has revolutionized how we access information and has actually created a different kind of behavior in people. I almost call it the impatient generation. The kids who believe that on demand is the default state of things. They should be able to access information and movies and music instantly. But the second revolution I'm talking about, and I'm going to talk about tomorrow, is the fact that we're starting to digitize our world. So the real world around us will be made, will come alive with sensors, with processors, with things. And all of a sudden, we're not going to think about digital anymore. It's just there. And in many ways, I'm fascinated that we still are talking about digital. So I wouldn't go into an agency today and shout out, so where's the radio department? Or where's the poster department? And it's kind of silly to walk into an agency today and shout after the digital department, because digital isn't a channel, a thing. It's everywhere. We're not going to think about bridging the gap anymore. Again, it's just going to be there, because you have your excellent digital remote control in your pocket already, which happen to be your mobile phone. So you're not really, now we're thinking about bridging the online and offline, but very soon we're not going to think that way, because it's just going to be there. We're not thinking when we are in London, for example, when we're using the Oyster card, I'm not going around and thinking, now I'm bridging the digital and physical world here by using my travel card. I just use it. It will just be there. Like the camera that we have here as well. We don't think about necessarily anymore about digital cameras. It's just a camera, and people have almost forgotten about the traditional ones. It's just going to be there. And that's the thing about digital that I quite like. You use it the way you want to use it. Some people use Twitter or Facebook as a way of collecting friends, and as a popularity contest. Other people, I use Twitter as my bookmarking tool. So it's sort of interesting things that I stumble across. I've never tried to nurture my audience or talk to my audience in a Twitter way. I use it for myself, and if someone else wants to tag along for the ride, fair enough. So I think that's the difference between. I've never tried to use those channels to build my brand or whatever it might be. It's just a tool. It's quite simple in a way, because you can't create awareness for awareness sake. It's like these people that attention seekers that, the naked runners on football pitches or whatever. Yeah, they get a lot of attention. The whole stadiums is watching them, but what for? And I think there is a danger when these things that you mentioned is that, all right, we can create attention, but we forgot about what we're trying to communicate. Well, we get lots of views, and is that what we're measuring, really? The number of views? Or are we going to have some sort of better quality thing? Are we actually communicating this product, this service, this brand in a good way, or are we just collecting numbers, seeing that counter ticks up, likes or whatever it is? It's, you know, the classic example that I've used arguing with, discussing with people in the agency is that, all right, I can get you 1 million likes easily. Let's just give away $1 million, and we have a lottery. Everyone that clicks the like button. But what does that communicate? Nothing. It's bribery. It doesn't really communicate anything. I'll get you those likes, but that's not why we're doing this, right? We're trying to build a brand. We're trying to find a tone of voice. We try to be likable as a brand, as a company, as a service. And it's going to sound a little bit pretentious. I mean, my dream is to be able to create something that has some kind of legacy. So it's not just another campaign or another thing that people will forget about in 10 years' time or even in 30 days' time nowadays. But it's leaving something behind. And I don't know if that is something I will do within the advertising space at all, or if it's a story, or if it's some kind of product or experience or service rather than an advertising thing. I don't know a single creative that doesn't have a drawer full of old ideas. And because you believe in them again, and you should believe in them, and you try to sell them to various clients at the time, and hopefully one day it's finally gonna get made. But at the same time, that's only half of it. Most of the time, you get a brief, you look at it, and you try to come up with the best possible solution within that space. Or even sometimes you ignore the brief and you do something else that you know is right. The secret ingredients, if there is any one in the agency world, I would say is the culture. If you can nurture a culture in the agency where anything goes, be brave, or to quote Kennedy, Wyden Kennedy himself, is that just move me, dude.
Make me laugh, make me cry, make me do something. And you can, whether you do it on the internet or on a balloon floating above me, I don't care. But just move me, dude.
It's that simple, but it's hard to keep that culture and that spirit in an agency, because all of a sudden you hire people and a few money counters, people counting money starts to pop up, and other people are more interested in efficiency, and other people are interested in different things. But if you can keep this kind of cool culture that you have to move people, that you have to, like I said, my second question, why should anyone care? If you have that culture around you and everyone in the agency goes towards that goal, you will produce great work, I guarantee. It's just the way it's going to be. No, I don't think that there is the secret. There's no secret to a hit song or a hit movie or anything like that. You just have to be passionate at what you do, and sometimes be prepared to take a few risks. Because the convenient and easy way is to do what other people tell you to do. The hard thing to do is to believe in your own ideas and what you do and do it anyway. And history has shown that if you really want to stand out, that's the only way to do it. It's painful in the process, but that's the only way. So you just have to go for it. It's the secret.